Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, I wanted to talk about something maybe a little spicy, but also I think necessary, and hopefully you'll be able to take something away from this at the end, or maybe by the end. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us off, because that's a lot. Thanks. So, the story we have for you today was something that I saw happen on the Gen Discord a couple days ago. This was on the 4th, so I guess about almost a week ago. And it was an exchange that I saw between Yukon and Tiny. Now, for those of you who may not know, right, Tiny used to be kind of right hand, right, co-partner, co-working with Jason in TFS before eventually he left and ended up going to 27 to join Laws. And it was him and I believe a few people, or however many it was a small group that left and went there. And this was an exchange that happened a number of days ago where they said, where you could have said, Tiny, it's so fun. I feel bad for Laz is your last season there because you were only complaining and probably migrate out. And then Clan said already, this is FSK Clan. And then Tiny responds, that's not news. We are considering migrating out, but that doesn't mean that I cannot give it my all when I'm here, even if I'm unhappy with certain things. And then he messages again saying, you expect me to just AFK and not fight just because I'm unhappy with certain things or situations here. Right, enough for me. Thanks. How many days until migration? Keep in mind, cooldown is a lot shorter now, so you can migrate out each season or per season if you wanted to. And then I believe he said, as I told Guns, we will see how things play out. Now, this is where, let me explain the situation that they're in right now, right? So they are in 6013 for SOS 4. Now that is Season of Strife, Rise of the Dragon, right? So they're in the newest KVK season at the moment. Over here in Taihua, again, hopefully pronouncing okay, this is Laws fighting against UAH or UHA. Now, the farthest I saw them get after the zones had opened was on top of the plateau. I don't know if it was about halfway in, but I know that they might have at least been a few flags. But they were on top of the plateau, just a little in front of the ramp at one point that I had seen. Now, obviously, they have been pushed back. And then you kind of get this message that happens right later after the fighting is going on, or after the pass had opened for level 2 pass into zone 2. And then you see the messages there from Tiny. And again, if there might have been any others related to that or from him, whether that was earlier or afterwards. Now, what are my thoughts on this in general? And then what do I think are some maybe good, positive, and educational takeaways? Number one, to me, at any point in time, you are playing roulette, sometimes Russian roulette, just in the lighter sense, meaning that anytime you go somewhere, you migrate somewhere, there is always the chance that from the people that are going there, maybe things don't live up to your expectations. Maybe what you were initially told is not the case. Maybe your own views have changed about what your wants and needs are. And maybe it's not really anything to do with where you went based on the understanding of what was going to be there once you arrived. However, the thing I find interesting with Tiny's situation in his group is the fact that he was so willing to, and very upfront and honest about the situation for where he stands, and that saying, you know what, it is okay to move if you are unhappy or if the situation is not maybe meeting your expectations. That doesn't mean that you just whine and cry and go throw a tantrum and hide in a corner and not participate. That to me is massive chops, because that takes a lot to not just like screw over anyone or to say that, you know what, just because things aren't going my way, I'm going to act like some kind of child. That's respect to me, or you have my respect for that, because it's similar situation. I have to imagine it's like you working at a company and you not liking a recent change. You're not, in obviously depending on the situation, or it's like being in politics, right? And it's like, think about, and this is maybe a broader example, but like one of the things I see happen every so often, right? Or I guess you could say maybe happens sometimes when a new president takes over, is you'll see some people that will quit. And maybe it's because they don't believe in the president, they don't agree with the policies, maybe their agenda isn't in line with theirs, maybe they're on opposing sides of the aisle, whatever it may be. But I often will see reports come out when a new president takes office, and you'll see some people that will leave. And instead of, maybe trying to, and again, this is just one perspective, one approach, but maybe trying to solve the things internally, or maybe trying to rally support and solve them externally, and or both. And I think when you look at situations like this, where it's okay, look, I don't agree with these things, but maybe it's not that the leadership team there in laws or in 27 is, it's not like they're out there name calling or bashing or saying like, oh my God, how bad, they are. Maybe they're not, they're denying them opportunities to go out and fight. I haven't heard any reports of that at the moment. And so I have to imagine maybe it's just differences of opinion in how things are playing out. But I just want to say that I think it's really big of Tiny and their group, obviously, however many people this applies to, if up to everyone, where they're not just throwing in the towel and saying, okay, we're not going to fight anymore, right? Or, we're not going to contribute in any case, based on maybe what their expectations or their requirements were, if it was just kind of as fighters and just as members, not a part of any management or any kind of extracurricular activities within the alliance and or the kingdom. I think that's fine. So, and what I like is the fact that he was open about it, because to me, I think it's something that we need to talk about a lot more. I think it's okay for people to go somewhere, to migrate somewhere, hoping that it's going to be the next best place for them. And there's always that chance that it just may not work out. And that's okay. Obviously, it's not to say that it's okay in the sense of like, oh, that sucks because the people spent migration, either spent money to migrate there. Even if you're low spend free to play, you had to get all these permits and things just didn't end up working out. Yeah, obviously, it is still going to be a hard pill to swallow in those particular cases. But the fact is that it's okay to acknowledge and say, like, look, things didn't work out as expected. And okay, now it's, now maybe we need to look for somewhere else to go to, but that you're still contributing and fulfilling your role there up until the point at which you leave, if they leave in this case. And so I thought this would be a nice thing to kind of segue into now. What do I think are some things that players and or groups need to absolutely do before they migrate somewhere? Like, I'm talking the due diligence stuff, the things that are really important, to where, and I'm going to say this very clearly, nothing is a guarantee. I don't care how much due diligence you apply. I don't care how much research. I don't care how much investigation. I don't care about how much backstory or how many people, how many references you follow up with, how many people you go and ask. There's never going to be a guarantee. But what you can do is increase your percentage of where it is likely to succeed and to work out where you go, versus having a lower percentage, less likely chance that things will work out. And I'm going to go over some of those. So first one for me is, if you are wanting to go somewhere, you number one need to understand, you need to find out first and foremost, right? What are the expectations for where you're going? And sometimes the expectations can be different, meaning, okay, are you joining an alliance that has a fighting minimum? Is there a minimum amount of troops to train? Is there a minimum amount of merits that you need to acquire and gain? Maybe a minimum amount of deads for filling rallies? Is it just open field play? Are you expected to fill rallies? Are you expected to potentially rally lead? Find out what the PvP requirements are, or the minimums for being in that kingdom / alliance. And maybe there's minimums outside of just fighting, right? Maybe they're expecting, and I guess this kind of goes into maybe number two, is what are their non-PvP expectations? And that can be something such as, okay, well, do they expect people to go and fight raids if you're available, right? To do elite raids, or are they going for world record times? Do they expect people to show up for town hall meetings that they have on VC? And then I guess loosely connected to one, or an add-on to one, is, do they expect you to be in VC when you're fighting, right? If you're able to. It doesn't mean that you have to talk, but are you at least able to listen? Are there any kind of other non-PvP related expectations on participation, on engagement, on contributions? Find those things out. Number three, for me, is I would do not rely solely on what management tells you. And that's not to say that management is lying. What that is to say is to do your due diligence. And what I mean by that is go and ask non-management people that are R1 through R3s, not just R4s and R5s. Go ask other people in the alliance and message them and just say, hey, my group is considering, my group is considering migrating here. We've been talking to your management team. I just wanted to reach out and ask, what has your experience been like here? Right? This season, maybe last season, maybe ask a couple questions. And then I'd say reach out to a few people, a number of people, right? And you can easily do this by going off of just making an account in the kingdom if you're able to, and you can go and look at their merit numbers, right? And then depending on what criteria you want to look at, do you want to message maybe some higher PvP contributors? Do you want to message some low contributors? Do you want to get like a well-rounded mix of people that you reach out to? But go and ask the members there what their experience has been like this season and last season. Maybe ask them, hey, outside of expectations, maybe ask them, hey, what's the mood? Do a lot of people socialize? Do a lot of people maybe hop on the Discord? It also depends on what you want. Remember, it is a two-way street. It's not just what are their expectations, it's what are your expectations? What are you looking for? Do you want an alliance that is more social? Do you not care about the socialization? Do you enjoy joining VCs when they're doing things that are PvP or KVK related? Do you not? Do you just want to show up and put your numbers in and put your work in and then, kind of get off, but you just want to be a part of kind of a high PvP, high participatory or high engaging alliance? You need to figure out as well and know what you are coming with. What are your personal expectations or what are your group's expectations going in? So that way you can figure out and you can ask more specific questions that are going to help you know, okay, is this the right fit? Or, okay, maybe it's falling short in a couple areas. And what I would say is maybe number 4, if I'm even on 4 at this point, is reach out to multiple kingdoms. Don't be afraid to reach out to kingdoms, even if they're not actively recruiting on the official Discord, on my Discord, because on my Discord, we also have a section there, which is a recruiting me and recruiting you. It's very similar to what Rock used to have, and I just kind of like that style, where if you're an individual or a group, you can post an ad that you're looking to be recruited. And if you're a kingdom and or alliance, you can post an ad for your kingdom and or alliance that you're recruiting. And so I have that on my Discord on my CallofDragons section. I'll link to the Discord in the pinned comment description down below if you'd like. And so these are things where, as I said, don't just rely solely on what ads are there. Go out and scout. As an example, if you want to, just go through kingdoms. Look at all the ones that are basically not full. If you want to start with crowded or maybe active kingdoms, go into those. And then you can use those as a gauge. If you want to use the things that I put out often, where it's like the most dead kingdoms, or you want to look at other top kingdoms that maybe aren't the strongest but have a decent amount of power, again, be all right to go into those kingdoms. Like as an example, if let's just say I picked out an active kingdom here, I click go. Once I get here, right, I can, and if they don't have a king or not, I just find whatever alliance is touching. And if they have 1 or 2 alliances, okay, look, they're at 8.2, 8.3 billion power. Let me zoom out. Is there anyone else around? This is LV. It looks like LV. Okay, this looks like LV. And sometimes looking at like the passes is like an easy way to figure that out. Okay, HLV. So 8.3. Let's see here. Okay, 1.4. What does this tell me now when I look at this kingdom? Well, what this tells me is that they have some space in the main, but they also have a shell that's available if we wanted to bring more people in that is close enough to the dragon and in final zone that it looks like the shell based on territory development is okay. So that could also feed if they wanted to try and bring in more people, whether that's filling the main, have some overflow in a second. Maybe you want to build out a second alliance and there's enough space there. And okay, if this falls in the range of what I'm looking for, let me reach out and see what their team is about. Now, obviously, you can't necessarily go and look at past KVK records and things like that. I mean, at least in a sense where you have a lot more details and maybe a lot more stats to kind of go off of, where you feel like the information you're looking at is meaningful, right? We don't really have that ability at the moment. But this is in a brief, very quick example of how I would go through and look at a kingdom to identify and then say, okay, well, this kingdom is probably one that I can reach out to and go and ask some questions on. And I say all of this so that way you, as the player and or the I should say the player, the group, or the kingdom, are a little bit more educated, a little bit more well informed on how you would go about vetting. And again, it's all about just trying to increase your odds, your percentage, to make sure that you have the best odds on when you're going somewhere. And even then, right, it still may not always work out. So I'd be curious from any of you that have migrated somewhere. I'd love to hear a time or a story or a situation that occurred to you where maybe you did some due diligence, and what did that look like? And then did it work out or did it not work out? And do you feel like, well, maybe if you did this or that, maybe there's a better shot of it working out? Or no, you felt confident. You did everything you felt you needed to do, but you know what? You just didn't get lucky. It just didn't work out in that case. Or what are some things that you've done that you feel could help out other people when it comes to levels of vetting? Like I said, this isn't really a deep dive. This is just kind of more of a couple things that really stand out to me if I was to kind of go and try to highlight a few pieces that I think are important. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.